Sorry, I'm still doing some. Okay, great, perfect. Right, so it's so nice to see everyone. You all muted, so you cannot probably hold on. There are more people coming in. More people coming in. Let's give it one more minute just to wait for a few more people to join. Perfect. So welcome guys to our live Q&A session. And today I will be covering questions related to no plant gaps. If you see me stopping, there are people still joining the call. So I'm sorry for the distraction. So today we're just going to cover questions you submitted related to no plant gaps. And I have to say that I've been really, really excited, but at the same time, very overwhelmed with the number of questions I received from you. So we've got 1 hour together. Maybe we'll go a little bit longer. If you need to leave in 1 hour, that's fine. This session is recorded. Let me just quickly check if it's definitely recording. Yes, it is. It is recording. So this session is being recorded. So if you have to leave the live, that's okay. I won't get offended, and I will share this recording with you in the next few days, so you can listen to what we've talked about. And because I received so many questions, I doubt we will be able to get through all of the questions today. But I promise you, I will schedule another date and I will answer the rest of the questions. But I'm just looking through the questions. I've put them all on the slides. So, so it's easy for me to follow the questions, but also for you, because I know that some of you are visuals and it's just easier to follow. So, first of all, let me introduce myself, because some of you, I recognize some of the names who joined, so some of you know me already, and some of you are probably new to me, to this live, to my community, How to GAPS community. So let me introduce myself. My name is Monica Holland. I'm certified GAPS coach. I'm also certified nutritional therapist. And currently I'm pursuing certification as a HTMA practitioner. I'm also a very committed researcher when it comes to all things microbiome, heavy metals, parasites, enemas, and obviously researching an impact of animal-based diets on health and vitality. I am also a teaching instructor on Doctors Natasha Campbell-McBride team, where I teach GAPS practitioners two things: no plant gaps and enema. So these are my two babies, which I absolutely love, and that's my expertise. I'm also a founder of Great Gut Guide. That's my training platform, where there are lots of online training programs where you could go and complete, from no plant gaps through enema masterclass, through heavy metal, through I can't even remember what's out there, but there is plenty of content. I also have How to GAPS Facebook group. So if you're not a member yet, I would absolutely love to see you in my group. I'm pretty much there every single day answering questions. and providing lots of free resources. So if you even starting GAPS journey, or you've done the GAPS journey for a while, I'm sure you could benefit from being part of our little How to GAPS gang. Not that little anymore, almost 5,000 people. So we're growing. So before we start with the question, I just very briefly wanted to share a little bit of story about how No Plant GAPS helped me to regain my health. So first of all, my biggest improvement, and possibly the most important, most important. Sorry, I'm just admitting people all the time into the life. So the biggest and possibly the most important improvement for me was healing from a life-threatening state of Crohn's disease. I had numerous symptoms, including stabbing pains, including constant cramping, obviously gas, bloating, that was just like a normal day to me, constipation mixed with diarrhea, vomiting, blood in the stool, you name it, pain in joints, and many other symptoms related with Crohn's disease and general digestion. So, you know, I was in and out hospitals for perhaps the last few years before I started my GAPS journey. I had so many colonoscopies done, so many MRIs done. I've been on drip, I don't know how many even times. I've been dragged by steroids, immunosuppressants, you name it. I think I was a guinea pig for some of the gastroenterologists. And it got so bad that actually a few gastroenterologists, they want to cut me open, remove part of the ileum where it was so inflamed that the scarring on the scarring created a stricture, a narrowing, which at any point could burst, and that's life-threatening. But luckily, I discovered GAPS, or perhaps GAPS discovered me, and I attracted the yellow book. I started reading it, and I knew I have to start this journey. But it was so the GAPS diet gave me some relief, but it was only when I started doing No Plant GAPS I've seen massive improvements. And when I removed the plants from my diet, many things improved drastically. So as you can see, you know, the things like sleep improved. My energy levels became really good. My hormones balanced out. My suspected multiple sclerosis was just gone. And when I say suspected, it was because I was never diagnosed, but I was tested so many times, and doctors couldn't put a finger on why I suffer from numbness in my limbs, tingling, blurry vision, vertigo, slurry speech, or so many cognitive thinking. With No Plant GAPS, it was all gone. I also got rid of arthritis in my fingers. Not to mention my cognitive thinking. I can now read a book without reading it twice and with understanding what I am actually reading. Previously, I couldn't read a book. So there were many symptoms, but so far I've got rid over 250 symptoms. So the whole GAPS journey, and especially No Plant GAPS, have been miraculous for me. And if you want to learn a little bit more about my healing journey, what I've specifically done, I actually recorded a longer video. So let me know, and I will share the link to the video with you in the email when I share this recording too. Just a disclaimer, whatever you're going to see and hear here, it's not a medical advice. I am not a medical doctor. Everything is shared here just for educational purposes. And if you find something what you would like to implement in your lifestyle, please do not consult. Please do. I said do not consult. Please do consult it with your medical doctor. I think my subconscious mind is slipping the words, but please ignore it. So let's have a look who can actually benefit from no plant gaps. According to Dr. Natasha, who's obviously creator of No Plant Gaps, the No Plant Gaps diet is a beautiful option for babies and children with FPIES, babies who fail to thrive without any diagnosis, babies and children who have been recently diagnosed with diabetes type 1, as well anyone with unstable blood sugar, children and adults with any inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's, ulceritis, colitis, any severe digestive problems, chronic diarrhea, blood in the stool, constipation, diverticulitis. Those people benefit from No Plant Gaps. People with severe mental diseases, people with autoimmune diseases. So no matter what label you received, No Plant Gaps is wonderful, wonderful to put people in remission. And anyone with severe physical problems, and also anyone who've been on the GAPS journey. So let's say you've been on a full GAPS for at least a year, or maybe even more, or intro GAPS for at least a year, and you haven't achieved the results you wanted, perhaps No Plant Gaps is a good option for you. So, okay, so now let's have a look at the questions you've submitted. So again, I just wanted to repeat what I've said, as few people just joined, few new people just joined our live. The amount of questions I've received was fantastic, and I'm so excited that so many people want to learn about No Plant Gaps. But it means physically I will not be able to cover all of the questions today. So we'll do as many questions as possible, and then I will schedule another live next week, and I will cover the next kind of group of list of questions then, and share the recording if you cannot attend the next live. So let's crack on with the questions. So the question number 1 is, let me just move the participant list because it's covering my screen. Can the thyroid function without fruits and vegetables, carbs? Absolutely, yes. In fact, thyroid can thrive on animal-based diet. But just remember that No Plant Gaps is not without carbs. Meat close to the bone, organ meats, and other parts of animal, they all contain glycogen. And glycogen is a carbohydrate. It's animal-based carbohydrate. It has very similar structure to starch found in the plant matter, but in the animal form of that starch. And that animal form of starch is slightly different structure, which actually makes it easier to digest and to be used by the body. So Dr. Natasha designed this protocol that way, so our body can get enough carbs necessary to fulfill its functions. So just think about a chunk of meat. We are talking about meat close to the bone, has a perfect ratio of protein, fat, carbs, vitamins, and minerals, in order to repair thyroid and in order for that thyroid to function. And based on Dr. Natasha's clinical experience, and she's got so much experience, that amount of carbs is enough for the body. The other thing to take into consideration, that our bodies are just magical, and they can actually convert anything in whatever actually they require. So the body can convert, let's say, proteins into carbs when it needs it. So we don't need to provide carbs from vegetables and fruits. Just a couple of points to mention here, because we need to understand that in order to heal and support and restore thyroid function, we need to provide the building blocks. We need to provide proteins, we need to provide fat, we need to provide lots of cholesterol that is needed to produce hormones. The whole hormonal system is very fat hungry. So we need animal fat to produce hormones. We also need that fat to absorb fat soluble vitamins. So let's just name them: vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, and vitamin K, so that the hormones can function properly. Number two, thyroid needs iodine. So quite often we use iodine, the spelling in the pronunciation in the USA, iodine, to support that hormonal function of thyroid. Let me get a few more people in the okay. So the next question: I don't understand how removing vegetables from the diet can help. Aren't they healthy? Could you please explain how does no plant GAPS work? Great question. Remember, plants are not our enemies, and they do contain lots of medicinal properties, but they not are our friends when it comes to the situation where our gut is damaged. We cannot digest plants and we cannot digest their juices. And on No Plant GAPS, we want to maximize the chances for healing. So that's why we removed plant matter. And plant matter is also full of anti-nutrients and toxins. So many plants, they contain oxalates, saponins, lectins, and other anti-nutrients, which our damaged guts our damaged guts, damaged detox system, damaged drainage system just cannot process. And on the top of that, many plants, including so-called organic plants, sadly contained a lot of pesticides, insecticides, and other chemicals. So we want to maximize the therapeutic effect of No Plant GAPS by giving you a chance to actually heal and seal the gut by removing that plant matter. And just another point about plants, fiber. Fiber, it's not possible for our bodies to digest fiber. If there is any inflammation in our digestive system, that fiber would act as a sandpaper. So just imagine an open wound being treated with a sandpaper. It will just damage it even more. And remember, if you're here and if you are a GAPster, your gut lining is already inflamed and damaged. So we don't want that much. We don't want fiber at all, to be fair, if our system is severely damaged. So that's number one. So that's why we removed the plant matter, because of the anti-nutrients, because of the fiber, because of the toxins they contain. The second reason why No Plant GAPS is so healing, because it provides very large amounts of nourishing substances. So it's full of amino acids, it's full of gelatin, it's full of collagen, it's full of glucosamine, it's full of fats, it's full of vitamins, it's full of minerals, and so on and so on. And by providing all those building blocks, you're going to rebuild each part of your gut lining until you have a brand new, healthy, and fully functioning digestive system and other systems as well. And obviously, because you're not consuming that plant matter, these anti-nutrients from the plant matter, they don't mess around with the absorption of these nutrients. So again, you maximize the chances to achieve therapeutic results. The other thing to think about No Plant GAPS, well, humans are designed we are designed to digest meats easily. And in order to digest meat, we need hydrochloric acid and pepsins, which are both produced in our stomach. And it makes meat very easy to digest. And for those who actually have low stomach acid, No Plant Gaps focuses on restoring the optimal levels and production of it, because we consume a large quantities of meat stock, and meat stock is pre-digested food, and it helps to produce stomach acid. And another reason why No Plant Gaps is so healing, because we follow the approach nose to tail. So what does it mean? Dr. Natasha follows the traditional wisdom, the wisdom of traditional cultures, where the whole animal was eaten from the nose to tail, because you maximizing the chances to provide all of the nutrients for every single organ in your body from the organ of the animal body. So, and yes, and that includes eating tribes if you've got access to it, or gut lining if you've got access to it. I was actually eating gut lining when I stayed at Dr. Natasha. After she taught me how to slaughter chicken, we then cleaned it, and she made a beautiful stew with the gut lining from that chicken. That include eating eyes, that include eating brains, that include eating liver, lungs, and whatever you can get from, you know, from your farm and butcher. And also, the very important about No Plant Gaps, it helps your gut lining heal pretty quickly. Why? Because it's very gentle on the gut lining. We're removing that fiber, and because it's very difficult to digest and it can irritate the gut lining, but we also providing that warm, soothing, gentle foods. Like, think about the newborn baby. You wouldn't serve newborn baby, I don't know, raw carrot, raw apple, or fried chips, because their body is not ready for it. So you are rebuilding your gut, and think about yourself as a newborn baby and treat your gut the same way as you would with the newborn baby. And the other aspect of No Plant Gaps, that we focus on foods with nutrients in the most bioavailable forms. So again, we're giving ourselves a chance to absorb them better. Remember, when your gut lining is super damaged, the absorption will suffer. So that's why we only focus on those foods. So I hope, and one last thing I wanted to say, that No Plant Gaps provides all the nutrients, all the vitamins, all the minerals. So you're not going to end up with any nutritional deficiencies. So we don't need vegetables to heal and seal the gut. So is there any harm that no plant diet can cause? So as I've mentioned, remember, Dr. Natasha designed No Plant Gaps to make sure that all nutritional needs in terms of vitamins, minerals, fats, cholesterol, proteins, and other compounds are provided for the body to not only heal the most damaged guts, but also they remove all the nutritional deficiencies so the person can thrive. But it's very important to follow the protocol the way Dr. Natasha proposed, just to make sure that you introduce foods in the right order, so your body is ready for those healing foods to maximize that therapeutic impact. One thing to mention, there is no harm in following No Plant Gaps, but we need to understand that not everyone can jump into the No Plant Gaps cold turkey. I don't know if you completed my No Plant Gaps online training, but in one of the modules, I help people to assess whether they're ready for it. And if they're not ready for it, there is another module showing step-by-step instructions on how to prepare the body for No Plant Gaps, and then all the steps on how to implement it safely, how to go through the transition from No Plant Gaps to then introduce some vegetables safely, and then how to transition into intro gaps. There's also, you know, extensive troubleshooting module where I share symptoms people may experience going through, let's say, fat adaptation phase or deep detox phase, and other common but very, very temporarily symptoms and how to overcome them. So some people may experience some unwanted symptoms and they might think it's harming them, but knowing how to go through them is important. So to answer your question, short, that following no plant gaps is safe and it's very beneficial, but we need to know how to do it properly. Okay, so another question was like, there are so many different versions of carnivore diets. That's all confusing. How no plant gaps is different to them. Right, I know when I was doing my research and I was on the journey of finding the right answers, I've looked at pretty much everything. Like you're trying to find the answers, and that's a good sign, because by asking questions and researching, you will find the answer. So let me just go through a few of animal-based diets just to give you a gist of what to look at. So Lion Diet focuses mostly on beef, salt and water. Some on Lion Diet would eat other red meat, so let's say lamb possibly. But there are no guidelines into, let's say, cooking methods. You can boil, fry, roast, you can do any cooking methods. And there are people who actually benefit from following this diet. Sadly, many gapsters cannot digest beef and cannot digest more advanced cooking methods. So like barbecued steak is not an option. And for that reason, for many gapsters, following that diet is actually impossible or not beneficial. Then there are lots of carnivore diets, which are becoming very popular. And I love the fact that now we can learn that eating meat is safe and healing. But again, there are lots of differences between what people do on carnivore diet. So again, there are no rules. Some people eat all animals. Some people add fish. Some people add eggs. Some people add dairy. Some people add salt. Some people add water, or combination of those things. Some exclude organ meat. Some include organ meat. So it's becoming very confusing for many people. And the sad thing, what I'm seeing sometimes on carnivore forums or those membership sites, that many people who follow carnivore diet, they consume a lot of commercial dairy. They consume lots of ultra pasteurized or homogenized milk, processed cheeses, and other commercially produced dairy. That commercial dairy is very inflammatory, and it may hinder or even make the healing journey kind of impossible. Many carnivores consume highly processed meat. So let's say shop-bought sausages, hams. Again, those products will have additional ingredients and chemicals. Well, if somebody told me, is it better to consume standard American diet or carnivore diet with those shop-bought sausages? Of course, I'm going to say carnivore diet with shop-bought sausages. But many gapsters, we are special, guys. Gapsters are very special because quite often we cannot even touch that shop-bought sausage or shop-bought ham because of those additional ingredients or the quality of meat used to make those sausages. And again, so there are no guidelines in terms of the cooking methods, and people do everything they want to do, and they use, let's say, cooking methods which are not traditional or even harmful, like using microwaves or air fryers to prepare their meals. And so now I just wanted to compare that with No Plant Gaps, because No Plant Gaps focuses heavily on the meat stock, and nothing heals and seals the gut lining like meat stock. Of course, there is a lot of meat close to the bone, fish, eggs, fermented dairy. So we don't consume any commercial dairy, and we consume fermented vegetable brines and obviously mineral salt and water and so on. So you can see no plant GAPS is not necessarily totally no plants, because we include fermented vegetable brines, as well as some herbal teas if they tolerate it. So the thing is that everything what is on No Plant GAPS protocol is based on Dr. Natasha years of clinical experience to help you maximize the therapeutic results. So this diet is a medicinal diet with a very high success recovery record. So the next question is, my practitioner recommended me to take powdered collagen. You see my face already probably, to help with my gut, but I've read somewhere that supplementing collagen may not be good. What's your recommendation? Well, you've read it right. Powdered collagen is a dead product. It's not very helpful. And for those with the most damaged guts, it can actually contribute to the formation of the oxalate crystals. I never recommend it to my clients. There is plenty of collagen in meat stock. So just use lots of chicken feet, lots of pig trotters, lots of necks, and just other collagenous parts to get a good amount of collagen into your body, and save yourself money. I started carnivore diet, and after introducing liver, I had really bad reaction. I have been researching it, and there are mixed opinions in the carnivore community. Some carnivore doctors recommend it, and some are against it. What's your experience? Yes, I actually see that a lot. We need to understand, the more damage you have in your gut, the more your drainage system is compromised and your detox system doesn't work. So that when you introduce such a healing food as liver, then it can cause unwanted reactions. And why is it? Well, because liver is too healing, and there is always time on any food on No Plant GAPS to be introduced. That's why it's so important to follow the structure, the phases Dr. Natasha recommended. If you think about liver is a very concentrated multivitamin pill. It has 100 times more B vitamins comparing to a piece of meat. So if you are very deficient, and lots of GAPsters are very deficient, especially those who are also struggling with mold toxicity or pesticides toxicity or heavy metal toxicity or whatever other high level of toxicity in the body, there will be lots of deficiencies in the body. So if you introduce a portion of liver, and if you're so deficient, then that amount of nutrients coming from that liver will trigger a very huge healing reaction. When we eat liver, the body starts cleansing and removing toxins, and that process is always uncomfortable. That's why Dr. Natasha always recommends heal and seal your gut to a certain level, and then start introducing those kind of very powerful foods like liver. So that's why the very first few phases of No Plant GAPS, it's healing and sealing the gut with meat stock, with blended meats into the meat stock, and then introducing liver later on the protocol. So when I work with clients who have the most damage, I never start with organ meats. At least I never start with the liver. There are exceptions to that. I read that eating pork can cause weird blood issues, but I crave pork, and traditionally we eat a lot of pork in Germany. I am scared to eat it. Should I avoid it? Okay, so there is something about the pork that we don't understand fully. And yes, in certain situations, it can impact the blood structure in how do I call it, less favorable way. However, traditional cultures had figured that out and had figured out how to overcome that. So all you need to do is to salt your pork or ferment it. So if you make meat stock and you put pork, a piece of pig in your big pot, you cover it with water, and then you add salt to the cooking. So not after you cooked meat stock, but at the beginning of cooking that meat stock. That will mitigate the risk of that happening. So that salt and water will penetrate even a thicker kind of cuts of pork. However, if you are, let's say, progressed to further stages, or perhaps you may be doing extended no plant gaps and you want to roast a piece of pork, if you salt it, that salt may not penetrate through to the middle if the meat is very thick. So I would ferment it. So soak it overnight with salt, or soak it with vegetable brine, or soak it with water and whey, or water with kefir, and then you will just mitigate any risk of that happening. Remember, well, I would never avoid pork. I would never avoid pork. Pork is so high in vitamin B1, which is absolutely crucial for our nervous system. It's absolutely crucial for our energy levels. It's absolutely crucial for our heart issues. So I would just gorge on pork if any of those things your issues. And remember, I was born in Poland, so and you are in Germany, so there is a very similar the traditional diet was very similar. So traditionally we ate a lot of pork sausages, lard, pork meat. Like every Saturday my grandma would make a big pot of pork meat stock. It was like a fermented rice soup. And then we would have pork belly quite often, the whole pig roasted on the bonfire. There is absolutely no reason to avoid pork. We just need to know how to prepare it. How are you going? How are you doing, guys? Everything okay? Let me quickly have a look at the chat. Let me quickly go through the chat and a few questions there. Caroline, you are on the 10th year as a carnivore. Fantastic. Angela's is on a 6th week of carnivore. Rhiannon since 2017. Caroline, you UK? I am also in UK. Well, the ladies in the UK, should we meet up? Send me an email. hello@monicaholland.com. We should organize something. And those ladies in USA, ladies and gentlemen, you can connect here. Maybe you can exchange contact details so you can. Okay, so let's have a look. What's the problem with air fryers apart from those that are Teflon coated? So Dr. Natasha recommends traditional cooking methods only. So that's a pot, whether it's a stainless steel or glass pot, on the hob, ideally on the gas. And the air fryer, the main reason we used air fryers, so the main purpose of air fryers is to air fry something with less fat in it. The whole purpose of healing is to provide a lot of fat to our bodies. So that's one. The coating, the coating of the air fryer, Teflon, is a big no-no. There are air fryers without Teflon coating, but again, we don't know much about that air fryer technology and how it changes the structure of the food there. I always follow Dr. Natasha advice. My grandma never had an air fryer because it didn't exist. I always think, okay, how my grandma cooked back then. And I see fantastic results from that. And also, you wouldn't air fry anything on no plant gaps anyway. Maybe you can use air fryer when you totally heal and seal. So a little bit of toxicity, your body can perhaps process a little bit of toxicity there. Jared, hi, you doing? No plant gaps and MNMS, fantastic. Rhiannon, I'm in remission from Crohn's and have been on carnivore since 2017. Swear by it, amazing. Amazing. Okay, Michelle, so adding liver in the no plant situation seems like adding juicing too soon in intro. Yeah, any food, if you add it too soon on intro gaps, will be detrimental and may slow down the healing. Just remember, whenever we've got a reaction from food, even if it's a detox reaction or a healing reaction, it doesn't matter. Our body will spend some of the energy on dealing with that detox reaction and on dealing with that healing reaction. So you want to maximize the chances that that energy is spent on healing your gut rather than with dealing with detox. And listen, there is a massive detox on no plant gaps. So the more toxicity we had before starting no plant gaps, the more the detox. So it's always good to work with somebody who can actually take you through that journey. I keep admitting people. So just saying hello to those who've joined. Obviously, you've missed some of the questions, but there is a recording, so you can always listen back to the recording. The other question is it only pork meat? Would we need to do something with the fat? When I say pork, I mean the whole animal. So yes, it will be pork ribs, it will be pork trotters, it will be pork fat, it will be pork skin, it will be pork brain, it will be any part of animal. Remember what Dr. Natasha says, eat the problem. If you've got the problems with the eyes, eat eyes. I know somebody's grossed out by that idea, but sometimes blending them into the meat stock, you're not going to see them. They will see you. But they will definitely improve your eye vision, and then you can see them. Wonderful remedy is making meat stock even from a pig's skin. That's one of the things my grandma used to do as well. So yeah, pork meat. I mean, by saying meat, I mean any part of the pork. Okay, just looking at the other questions. There's a question, do you know the effects of NEU5AC in cow, lamb, pork meat on health? Right, okay, so there is a lot of research, scientific papers about things which can be detrimental when we eat this cow, when we eat this lamb, when we eat this pig, when we eat that chicken. Keep it simple. Know the source of your animals. If you see that that cow is on the pasture and that cow is eating the grass, not soy-based feed, or it's not kept in the barn for the whole year, or that pig is also outdoors, those chickens are roaming around the garden or on the pasture, they're eating slugs, bugs, or whatever they can find in the ground, then you know that animal will be healthy for you. So all the other things are typically all the papers which come up with, okay, we found this in this animal, we found this in that animal, and that's unhealthy. That typically comes from commercial farms. So I never recommend going to a supermarket and buying food from the supermarket. Some people don't have a choice. Some people cannot perhaps afford. And yes, I have people consuming meat from supermarkets, but I will tell you one thing, that quite often what I see, sorry, and other people joining, I see remarkable kind of transformations when people start healing, even on the supermarket meats, and they start healing, and then the intuition comes back, and then the love for Mother Nature comes back, and then suddenly something opens up. I don't know if it opens up in their mind or how it works, but suddenly they say like, I don't want to eat that supermarket meat anymore. And they start focusing their effort into finding a farmer. Doesn't have to be organic, but somebody who doesn't use a lot of chemicals. Remember, the organic certification costs a lot of money. I buy from a farmer who doesn't have organic certification, but I see the chickens, I see the farmer, I see the pigs, I see the cows. So I know how they love those animals, how they treat them, and I'm comfortable with that choice. Let me just go back to how do we ferment pork fat? I wouldn't ferment pork fat. You salt it, you cure it. Yeah, lardo is fermented pork fat. Where can I go to take the courses you talked about with you? What is your information to contact you? So you can email me, hello@monicaholland.com. I will share my email address at the end, and I will send everyone an email with all my contact details, with the link to all the courses, with my website. You can go to my website, which is www.monicaholland.com. And gosh, there is a tab with courses. I will send you an email, so you will I will make it easier for you. What do you make of people reporting sensitivities to beef? It is more than I would think. Sorry, what do you make of people reporting sensitivities to beef? Well, when people are sensitive to beef, that's typically for a few reasons. Number one reason, cows are one of the most hybridized animals in the world, together with pigs and chickens and so on. But cows are the most hybridized animals. And therefore, quite often, they already genetically weaker, and therefore their meat is not healthy. So that's why it's important to find the heritage cows if possible. The second reason, quite often they've got antigens in them, and people react to antigens. And there are other reasons as well. So I had clients who've been reacting to beef because beef was a little bit too fatty, and that person had issues with gallbladder, and the gallbladder did not catch up yet with the amount of fat, so we had to go slower with slightly leaner meats, let's say like chicken and so on. And quite often I see when people are sensitive to beef, let me rephrase that. When I see people who have lots of sensitivities to foods, and they can tolerate, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 foods only, the first thing I suspect are heavy metals. So that's the thing I look at, because those sensitivities have to come from somewhere. How quickly does this approach resolve moderate constipation? Okay, so constipation, again, what is the root cause of the constipation? If the root cause of constipation is impaired bile flow, which according to Dr. Natasha is the most common reason, then carnivore animal-based diet, no plant gaps, will resolve it, because very slowly we will be increasing the amount of fat. So firstly, we start with naturally occurring fats, then we keep adding other types of fats and so on, so that bile flow is restored. However, there are other root causes. One other root cause is excess of excess of Clostridia, which basically paralyzes the gut, and there is no peristalsis, then there is no urge to go to the toilet. And even when people do enemas, quite often things do not come out. There is other reason, which is thyroid issues. So when thyroid is damaged or not working the way it should be working, thyroid is master of the digestion, and it rules the way we poop. So again, we look into how support that thyroid. So there is no way of saying, and there are other root causes as well, but there is no way of saying how long it's going to fix it. I had people who've been heavily constipated. They started no plant gaps and they turned into diarrhea, and the diarrhea didn't stop after, let's say, 2 weeks, and then they became regular. I also have clients who had constipation, severe constipation, and they haven't pooped naturally for 2, 3, even 4 years, and they were just relying on enemas, and that continued for another year or so. So, you know, there are lots of variables there. In terms of the lard, yeah, just salt the lard. Guys, we've got lots of questions, and I would like to go back to the questions we had submitted, because otherwise we will never get through for what we have here. Okay, so another question, pre-submitted question is, which supplements are best to take on no plant gaps? None. Of course, there is exception to this, but listen, we are trying to fix the most damaged guts. If we want to increase the chances of healing our gut lining, we need to remove anything that can hinder that process. And as much as some supplements are tempting to take because they promise us more energy, they promise us better brain function, they promise us other things, and there is a right timing to take them, but quite often taking supplements on no plant gaps, especially those supplements which have other ingredients, will slow down the impact of healing, will just slow down the journey. And just remember, your body recognizes real food. Sometimes when it's so toxic and you have so many sensitivities and you just add something what is processed, and most supplements are processed, the body doesn't know what to do with it. So save yourself the money and make a big pot of meat stock and just keep healing, because it will come. I cannot promise how long, but the healing will come. But again, yeah, there are exceptions. So sometimes when I work with no plant gaps clients, sometimes we do supplements. Hi, just a quick note. As I continue to provide you with free content, I am reminded of the power of community and sharing. If you find value in what you hear, I kindly ask you to share this video with your family, with your friends, and with other community members. So let's join hands in spreading the knowledge and benefits of no plant gaps, detox modalities, and healing. And remember, if you are eager to explore further, our online training is just a click away. Okay, the next question is, my nervous system is overactive. I feel I am in constant fight and flight state. Would no plant gaps help me? Yes, absolutely. So firstly, we remove vegetables that are causing that inflammation, because obviously we cannot digest them and we cannot absorb them properly. So that undigested particles, they cause inflammation. So once we remove them, that inflammation goes down in the whole body, including inflammation in the nervous system too. Number two, the very important thing about our nervous system, you probably guessed it, nervous system needs a lot of fat. So there are parts of our nervous system that are made from cholesterol. And if we go low fat, our nervous system suffers a lot. So the more fat you can tolerate, then yeah, go crazy. And the other thing about no plant GAPS, obviously, as we've already talked about, is full of nutrients, nutrient-dense foods, which come in a bioavailable form. So it's full of B vitamins, it's full of iron, it's full of zinc, and these nutrients are crucial for the functioning of the nervous system. And you remember, when you remove all these inflammatory plant matters, which block absorption of vitamins, which block absorption of minerals, the nutrients I've mentioned, so the vitamins you will increase the chances of absorbing those vitamins and minerals, so your body can actually utilize them. And also another thing about the nervous system. So when you follow no plant GAPS, first of all, you're fixing your gut. Secondly, you're getting into a deep detox. So the level of toxicity, overall toxicity in your body gets down. And that in turns affect our gut-brain axis. Because what is that gut-brain axis? The ends of our nervous system are in our guts. It is connected all the way up to our brains. And that's how our body and all the organs communicate. If there is a lot of inflammation in the gut lining, and if there is a lot of inflammation, if there is a lot of fecal matter compacted to that gut lining, if there is a lot of parasites, if there is a lot of yeast, that affects that gut-brain axis, which then contributes to brain and the whole nervous system functioning. So when we remove that by following no plant GAPS, we are improving the whole nervous system. And of course, remember, foods are not enough sometimes, and foods are only one part of the healing. So I always say, you work on the foods, but you also work on the mind, on the energy, and on other aspects of your body. And if you want to work on your nervous system, you need to bring the parasympathetic and sympathetic system in balance. So, breathing exercises, vagus nerve stimulation, even doing gentle yoga or Tai Chi. Or magnesium salts are wonderful, because nervous system loves magnesium. So lots of people who start no plant GAPS, I always say, like, keep doing those magnesium baths every night, because that will help both. But obviously the key is to get the inflammation down, and no plant GAPS does it perfectly. Guys, we've just crossed 1 hour mark. I'm happy to go further. We've got lots of questions to go through. If you need to leave, I do understand. I'm not going to feel offended. If you want to stay, I'm just going to carry on. We'll see how long my throat and my voice will allow me to speak. It's been a long day for me already. It's 7 p.m. here in the UK, so I might have another half an hour in me. We'll see how it goes. Let me drink some water. By the way, let me know on the chat. Are you enjoying our live? Is it helpful? Unhelpful? What would you like to see more or less? Would like to see some comments on the chat. How are we getting on? I'm seeing yes. 1 yes. Perfect. Okay, yes. You just gave me a little bit of motivation to keep going. Okay, so the next question is, which meats are best to eat on no plant GAPS. Right, I think I'm just going to steal a sentence from Dr. Canberry. Is that his surname, or Ben Carey? Canberry. You see, it's getting late for me. My cognitive thinking is getting tired, so I'm just going to drag myself a bit. And you're probably thinking what I'm doing. So when I'm getting mentally tired, and quite often I've got a lot of clients. So today I had 3 consultations, and each consultation is very demanding when it comes to cognitive thinking. And now I'm here with you. So when my concentration gets down, one of the things I do, I just smell and put frankincense oil somewhere on my temple and somewhere on my forehead, and that gives me an instant kick. And I also love drinking a lot of goat's milk kefir, because that provides a lot of phosphorus. And when we do a lot of those things, so lots of critical thinking, lots of concentration, lots of research, lots of sitting in front of the laptop, that phosphorus is absolutely needed. Okay, so back to the question. So Dr. Canberry said, if it's used to run, oik, fly, swim, crawl, then go for it. So what it means, whatever meats are available where you live, and also what type of meats you can tolerate, then go for it. Let me give you some indicators in terms of some examples in terms of what to look for. So typically, chicken is well tolerated by many people because it's one of the most gentle. Lamb is typically good if somebody is experiencing histamine issues. Fish is excellent for brain health. Pork, we've already said, nervous system. Geese is super fatty and provides a lot of cholesterol. Again, so depending on the situation, start with the meat you can find where you live and you can tolerate. And sometimes it means just one type of meat. And some people even tend to tolerate one type of meat for a long time. So don't feel discouraged if you tolerate just one type of meat. Be grateful that you can tolerate that one type of meat. And if it's chicken, be grateful for that chicken, that it's bringing you healing. Remember, each animal will bring you healing. So start with that one which you can tolerate. So what led to the discovery and implementation of no plant GAPS by Dr. Natasha Campbell McBride? So the history of how Dr. Natasha created the protocol was, as you know, she developed the GAPS protocol many years ago, even many years before the Yellow Book was published, because she was running her clinic here in the UK. She was seeing patients on a regular basis. And then obviously, you know, she was getting more patients, and with the diversity of patients and with the world getting more polluted and the food getting more toxic, more processed, Dr. Natasha started kind of tweaking that protocol to the specific needs. So at some point, she was seeing a lot of moms with newborn babies who were diagnosed with FPIES. And FPIES is a food protein induced enterocolitis syndrome. So what happens with those babies? Those babies are exclusively breastfed, and those babies do not even tolerate that breast milk. Then they vomit, they have diarrhea, there is blood in the stool, they don't develop, they getting weaker and weaker. So they get advice from a medical doctor to stop the breastfeeding, and put the baby on a commercial formula, which most moms do at that point. So Dr. Natasha started recommending those mothers to just start on meat stock. And those babies started drinking meat stock, then a little bit of gelatinous meat mixed with that meat stock. And after perhaps few weeks or maybe few months, for instance, the baby started sleeping better, or the baby calmed down, or the baby stopped vomiting, or the baby started putting on weight. So they weren't healed yet, but there were very strong signs that they are on the right track, that something is happening, that we are on something good here. So gradually those moms removed the formula from the babies and started implementing, other animal-based foods to those babies, and seeing that the babies were recovering. And quite often with especially with FBIS, which is a very, very severe damage in the baby's gut, whenever Dr. Natasha recommended they introduce a little bit of vegetable to see, lots of the symptoms were coming back. So she kept those babies on a no plant GAPS for years, and that's been now 15 years. And when I've chatted with Dr. Natasha, she said that some of those babies who are now young adults, they still following animal-based diet, but they thriving, they super healthy. And then obviously she started seeing a lot of moms with children with Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. Then there was a group of people with severely mental disorders. So all those patients helped Dr. Natasha to formulate no plant GAPS protocol the way it looks now, because obviously it was a process of developing that protocol and learning as she was going with those patients. So I'm very grateful for all those poor babies who had to test the no plant GAPS approach, because it brought miracles to my situation. Okay. We would like to understand how plants affect the production of glucose in our bodies. If our bodies turn protein into glucose and we are feeding it sugar, to make more sugar. Is that harmful? Does it create insulin resistance? So let's break down the answer into two parts. Let's talk about the sugar, the glucose, first, and then we're going to talk about the insulin part second. So first of all, if we think about how the sugar gets into our bloodstream. Number one, when we eat plants. So when plants grow in the garden or on the farm or wherever, they produce glucose through the process of photosynthesis. So we've got the sun, we've got the water, we've got the carbon dioxide, which produces carbohydrate, which is carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen molecules. And that carbohydrate is stored in that plant in various parts. So, in the root, in the leaves, in the seed, wherever. We can actually go into the rabbit hole in here and dig deeper into different types of carbs in plants, such as starch, such as fructose, and any other plant-based carbs. But what I wanted to just say, so when we eat a plant, our bodies break down that carbohydrate into glucose during digestion. That glucose goes into our bloodstream, and then it is transported to the cells throughout the whole body. So that's how the sugar gets to our cells from plants. Number two, and let me just add a little bit to it. So when I say plants, I think about plants which are naturally occurring, or we planted them. So let's say a carrot, a beetroot, a leek, doesn't matter. But I also think about processed plants. So let's say table sugar, cereals, pasta, bread. So these are all processed plant foods. This is all high carb, high sugar foods. So all of them, when we eat them, lots of sugar in our bloodstream, and then it goes to the cells. So let's park that thought there. The second way of getting sugar in our bloodstream is by consuming animal products. So animal products. Sorry, somebody is. I've just had to admit someone. So animal products also contain carbs in the form of glycogen. So glycogen is a form of starch, and obviously starch is carb, but the structure of that animal starch is slightly different to plant-based starch. And that different structure makes it a little bit easier for the body to digest and use. So hold that. So just think about plants bring sugar into our blood, animals bring sugar into our blood. And the third way we get sugar in our blood is because our own body produces glucose when it needs it. So this is a wonderful ability our body has. It can convert protein into carbs if it needs it. So that's the first part. I will join it all together, so bear with me. Let's explain what insulin resistance is. So when we eat carbs, so it doesn't matter whether it's a plant or a plant or animal-based carb, body converts them into sugar, so glucose, fructose, and so on. And then now those sugars are in the bloodstream, which leads to increased blood sugar levels. That's logical, right? So once the levels of that sugar are higher in the blood, then our pancreas says, oh, I have to work. So pancreas starts producing insulin. So that insulin is responsible for taking that sugar through the bloodstream and taking it to the various cells. And then the other responsibility of insulin, amongst all the others, but I'm simplifying this process here because we can get very deep into the biochemistry, and I don't want to confuse people. So the other responsibility of insulin is actually telling the cells what to do with that sugar. So one cell, the insulin can say, I want you to use that sugar for energy. Or perhaps the other cell will be saying, well, I want you to actually store that sugar for later on. So think about insulin as being a traffic warden in your body. So that's like a perfect process. So if a person is healthy, so doesn't have leaky gut, doesn't have any health issues, it's a healthy person, and that person eats real foods, real traditional foods, not processed foods, and eats real foods in season. So for instance, I'm from Poland. Naturally, in Poland, you can pick wild strawberries, but only in the summer. So eating strawberries in the winter is going to mess up with that perfect process I've just mentioned. Just remember, Mother Nature designed the access to the food and different sugar structures that way that the glycogen, the animal starch structure, is way easier to digest and processed by the body, and it does not cause insulin resistance if eaten the way Mother Nature designed animals. So what do I mean by that? Dr. Natasha teaches us what is meat. Well, meat is meat close to the bones, not muscle meat. In fact, excessive consumption of lean meats, so this is your chicken breast, for instance, excessive consumption of those type of lean meats which do not have fat in it can cause metabolic issues. So there is no spectrum of GAPs. So no plant GAPs, keto GAPs, intro GAPs, GAPs fast, full GAPs. None of the GAPs spectrum recommends eating a muscle meat. And Dr. Natasha is very, very clear about it. Because she understands how Mother Nature designed animals for us to utilize it. I just wanted to read you something. I've asked Dr. Natasha this question a few years ago, and I have all had notes, answers. I keep them. This is my Bible. So I'm just going to read it word by word, because if I said it, probably it's not going to make as much impact as if it's coming from my hero, from my guru. Meat is not protein. I know, right? Now you're probably saying like, what? Listen to that. Meat is a complete food that contains form of animal starch called glycogen, and it is more dense than the starch you get from the potatoes and bread. And that is complex carbohydrate. Meat contains fat, phospholipids, vitamins, mineral. Meat is a chunk of animal, not fillet. Meat is a complete piece of food that will give you all the necessary nutrients in the proportions that your body requires. Fat, amino acids, protein, phospholipids, vitamins, and minerals will be there. Western butchers are taught to dissect the animal Western butchers are taught to dissect the animal, cut out the muscle, and everything else is removed, and so much is thrown away. You want a few chunks of meat. So no muscle meat, guys, no muscle meats. But let's be honest here, like in the modern world, when we think about how people eat, we bombard our bodies with carbs, with sugar everywhere, from unprocessed vegetables, so those vegetables which grow in our gardens, on our farms. If we eat them outside of its natural season in our geographical region, I wouldn't eat bananas in the UK, but UK does not grow bananas naturally. That's not the food we should be eating in the UK. Number two, we bombard our bodies with carbs in the form of processed vegetables. So that's the breads, that's the pasta, that's the processed and ultra processed foods. Number three, we bombard our bodies with muscle meat in the form of those huge unnatural hybridized chicken breast and lean turkey breast, because we are told that lean meat is healthier. They're not. And in fact, I actually see some worrying trend in some part of carnivore community where those who follow carnivore diet, perhaps more for the athletic reason rather than for health reason, because they want to be faster, stronger, more sporty, more athletic. There is a trend of eating high protein, lean meats and low fats. So, and that is really, really bad news for the body. I actually don't see many clients who are very sporty, because most of my clients are having severely damaged guts. But I had few. And I tell you one thing, it's a very, very long recovery, because once you go that lean meat, which will have the higher concentration on protein and not enough fat and other nutrients. Remember, the nutrients comes from close to the bone, from the bone. It really messes up the metabolism, and it's difficult to recover that. So just remember, if we keep eating carbs in those three ways I've mentioned, pancreas will be constantly producing insulin because there is no break with that constant glucose stream. And, you know, at some point your blood becomes, I don't know, a swimming pool full of sugar. And now that insulin, that traffic warden cannot fulfill the job it's designed to do. And what happens now? That sugar, that carb, that sugar, that glucose in the blood starts sticking to proteins, to lipids, to DNA, and it starts kind of getting them in clusters, clumping, caramelizing. So what happens next? The immune system, our body is super smart. The immune system scans the body all the time and see, hey, who are you? That little clump, that caramelized. I don't recognize you. So immune system needs to sort out those clusters. So what does immune system do? Sends inflammation. So first of all, we shouldn't be afraid of inflammation because, you know, that's the body sends it to fix issues. But the problem is, if we do not stop the problem at the root, so if we don't stop eating those too much fruit, vegetables, which are not in the natural form, or in the natural form but outside of the season, or in excessive amounts, or processed foods, or lean meats and low fat, then that root cause is not addressed. The inflammation stays there and it becomes chronic. So if we keep eating those things, that we are now in a chronic inflammation state. So I'm sorry it's taking a long time, but I think it's so important to understand a healthy person can eat vegetable and fruits at amount and any amount of animal meats, not the lean meats, and those vegetable fruits in season, and the way traditional societies consume them. But if there is damage in the gut as a result of the modern diet, then we need to go low carb. And obviously some of the GAPsters, they need to go no plant GAPs to sort out the blood sugar issues and restore the healthy levels of insulin production. So that's why one of the reasons Dr. Natasha actually recommends no plant GAPs is for those who with blood sugar issues. I hope I didn't complicate that answer. Let me know in the comments if that was if that was easy to follow. It is quite a complex process. I wanted to kind of simplify it for you. So let me know if that was clear enough. Another question is monocrop veggies. Should we ever eat them? Okay, so let's start with identifying what does monocrop veggie is. Any vegetable can be monocrop if it's planted in the same location year after year. But I think, so even cabbage or carrot or garlic can be a monocropped vegetable. However, I think, but I think what you meant in here was the biggest bad boys there. So the corn, the soybeans, the wheat. So let me answer this from the point of view of those like soybeans and corn. Point number one, the more damaged gut, the more unbalanced microbiome, the less people can tolerate the plant matter. I know I keep repeating the same thing, but I want it to land in your consciousness that that plants are not necessarily after us, but plants are not our friends when it comes to damaged guts. So second point, traditionally, we didn't have GMO food. And by the way, just recently I was reading an article that the wording on the labels GMO has been changed into, I can't remember, anyone can help me here, bioengineered or bio something bio. So you might not see GMO on the packaging anymore, but you might see the word bio, which makes you think, oh, it's bio, it's okay. Again, we need to be detective all the time. So traditionally, we didn't have GMO food. And I always look into what my grandma did, because as I mentioned, I grew up in Poland. And at that time, Poland was following the traditional way of farming and cooking We didn't have supermarkets, we didn't have commercial big farms, we didn't have glyphosate. So like so I always kind of tap into the wisdom of my grandma left, and I also keep pestering my mom to say, but what did your grandparents do? And I think my mom is fed up with me asking all these questions. But anyway, so traditionally, no GMO, no pesticides, no glyphosate, no other chemicals. Traditionally, we ate, well, people, or I ate as a child, only plants in season. We didn't have strawberries in the winter. We didn't have tomatoes in January. We didn't have cucumber in February. So we did not have those foods. And the other aspect to the monocultures, when it comes to things like corn or soy, traditional cultures were preparing the plants before they were safe to consume. So let me just talk you briefly, because I'm very conscious of time and I can feel that my voice is going slightly, and you may be tired too. So let's say in Mexico, because that's where corn is traditionally from. Before a traditional Mexican family ate corn in the form of, let's say, tortilla, that corn went through 5 stages of preparation. So they would soak it first, then they would cook it in alkaline solution, then they would ferment it, then they would wash it, and then they would grind it. And only then, not to mention that corn wasn't as big and wasn't genetically modified, and it wasn't sprayed. And in that form, which went through those 5 stages of preparation, only then they used to make the tortillas. So if you are healthy, there is nothing wrong with eating them from time to time, in the season, in the geographical area where that corn grows traditionally. So I'm in Poland, living in the UK. Corn is not a traditional food in here, so I wouldn't eat it. But remember, even in traditional cultures, people wouldn't eat it always as a staple. The staple always should be the animal products, because they build and rebuild. And for instance, soybeans, again, traditionally, where is soya from? Japan. No GMO, no pesticides, no chemicals. And before they consume soya product, they would ferment it for 6 to 9 months. 6 to 9 months. I could go on with with other examples of monoculture. Potatoes. Potatoes, yes, once your gut is healed and sealed, eating potatoes is fine. So I love eating potatoes from time to time, new potatoes with a lot of fat. Whenever you eat vegetables, lot of fat, or roasted potatoes with duck fat. But I don't recommend eating potatoes, anyone on the GAPS diet, until they fully healed and sealed their gut. I hope it helps. The next question: is the addition of fiber necessary in on no plant diet? No, fiber is most detrimental to the most damaged guts, and those with damage cannot tolerate even a speck of fiber. Just remember, fiber is a type of carb that our bodies cannot digest at all. It goes through our digestive system. It's very harsh. If you recall, I said it works like a sandpaper. So for those who have severe or complex health issues, they cannot tolerate fiber. So some amount of fiber is fine for those people who are let's say on intro or full GAPS. But even on the first stages of intro, Dr. Natasha recommends removing fibrous vegetables, as they may be harmful, and peeling, let's say, courgettes, getting the seeds out for the plant toxin, and so on. So So yeah, so that's why we are avoiding fiber. We don't need fiber. And personally, whenever I ate anything which had a higher amount of fiber in it, quite often I would just end up in hospital in extreme pain. So a no for the damaged guts. So the long story short, there is no need of fiber on no plant GAPS. And actually no plant GAPS is so healing because we remove fiber. Is vitamin C necessary in a no plant diet? When we eat carbs, when we eat a lot of vegetables and carbs, we need a lot of vitamin C. But when we don't eat carbs, our body needs for vitamin C drops drastically. Saying that, no plant GAPS is not without vitamin C. There is enough vitamin C in organ meats, especially liver. It has the highest concentration of vitamin C. And also there is abundance of vitamin C in vegetable medley brine, which is introduced in phase 4 of no plant GAPS. Is it advisable to continue taking iodine orally when switching from GAPS to no plant GAPS? Yes, iodine is a wonderful mineral that supports thyroid, it supports the whole hormonal system, and is needed by every single cell in our body, and our body needs it. And I think we all very depleted because our soils are depleted, our oceans are depleted, and we're missing that mineral. So there is I don't see any reason why you should stop the protocol, because it is compatible with all spectrum of the GAPS diet, including no plant GAPS. Of course, please work with somebody who could guide you through that process of iodine orally, because one of the things I would consider is no plant GAPS is extremely healing and deeply detoxing, and the amount of iodine needed for the body may change. So I would monitor that. What do you think about eating fish and mercury toxicity? Well, sadly, the whole world is polluted. The waters are polluted, the air is polluted, the soils are polluted, and we have more difficult times to actually navigate through all of these challenges, and we really have to become our own detectives. And yes, some fish can contain high levels of heavy metals, and not to mention that many fish are caught with lots of plastic in the stomachs, which is very distressing. However, there will be fish which can still provide necessary healing nutrients, and skipping fish may not be a good option. So especially those with who want to improve the brain health, I wouldn't be skipping fish. However, I would focus on the small fish, the bottom feeders, because it's the big fish which has tendency to accumulate heavy metals. So I would definitely avoid tuna. I would definitely avoid shark. I would definitely avoid halibut. Anything bigger. But I would focus on fish like sardines, because sardines are super amazing. They're small, and if you make a fish stock just with sardines, you can just blend the whole thing in. So you could blend the bones and everything else. And that will actually give you amazing amount of calcium, and that's quite important for those who suspect any oxalates issue. But nonetheless, sardines, mackerel is very fatty fish, great source of cholesterol. Whitebait, herring, and obviously just make sure that you buy wild fish, not farmed, because obviously those farmed fish have they farmed in horrific conditions, quite often fed with things you don't know what's included. And quite often they are over-infested with parasites, and some of that fish is actually, I don't know, partially dead when they caught. So there is no need to avoid fish, but no source. The source is important and the size is important. When raw milk is illegal, moreover, that no cow milk is impossible to buy. Is it possible to make no plant GAPS successful without dairy? Yes. Of course, raw milk will be the most healing and the most therapeutic, but I would try organic pasteurized milk and ferment that. If the gut is healed and sealed a little bit or enough on those very few phases of no plant GAPS, then it may be well tolerated. I have a few clients who cannot access raw milk at all, and they are fine with organic pasteurized, but never homogenized. And also, you know, some of my clients, they just decide to, some of the clients decide to skip introducing that organic pasteurized fermented dairy if they don't have access to raw, because when they tried, they had too many symptoms coming back. They didn't tolerate it well, so they decided just to skip the phase and do no plant GAPS without that fermented dairy, and then later on they were able to introduce it. So there are lots of options there, and of course, like with everything, it depends on how badly that gut damage is. What are plant-derived drinks besides the brines allowed on no plant GAPS? Herbal tea, ginger tea, lemon water. Fermented vegetable brines are part of no plant GAPS. Herbal teas, if tolerated, yes. Focus on herbal teas which are less healing, less detoxing, because you're already in a deep detox because you're no plant GAPS. So something milder, I don't know, mint tea, chamomile tea. If you need to go with something stronger like Podarco with dandelion, just work with somebody who understands no plant GAPS and how herbs work in that context. Ginger tea, no ginger tea on no plant GAPS. Lemon water, typically no, but again, it depends. Sometimes we use lemon water, sometimes typically when we want to change the pH of the body, then it's fine. But again, not everyone can tolerate lemon water, because at the end of the day, it's a plant matter, and the most damaged guts have less chances to tolerate it. I had one client who tried a glass warm glass. I'm losing the way I speak. So I had a client who'd been on no plant GAPS and tried 1 glass of hot water with a squeezed lemon from less than half a lemon, and she tried a few sips of that water, and in the night she had crazy panic attacks. So yeah, so we had to remove it very, very quickly. So we have to be cautious about any sort of plant matter on no plant GAPS. The rule is, the more toxic the body, the more sensitive it is, the more toxicity, the more the heavy metals, the pesticides or whatsoever, then the higher chances that the person is not going to tolerate even vegetable brines when it comes to that phase. Would the GAPS diet help with MS, multiple sclerosis, since it's an autoimmune disease? Yes, it helped me. So my diagnosis was never confirmed. I was tested by doctors who couldn't confirm, couldn't agree on the reasons why I experienced so much, let's say, pin and needles, numbness in my limbs, dizziness, balance problems, you know, cognitive issues, slurry speech, and so on. But when I started doing GAPS, some of the symptoms were gone, but with the no plant GAPS, all of them were gone. Just think about what is multiple sclerosis. Basically, multiple sclerosis is the sign of lack of myelin, and myelin is a fatty substance that forms like a kind of protective coating around nerve fibers in our nervous system. So it kind of insulates it. It helps, how to say it? It helps facilitating the transmission of any electrical impulses along nerve fibers. And those electrical impulses, that's how our body communicates with each other. So that's why, you know, low cholesterol diet is the worst. That's why GAPS diet and no plant GAPS is wonderful, because we provide a lot of cholesterol and we restoring the myelin levels in the body. So we need more animal fat. We need more cholesterol to protect and to rebuild our nervous system. And we also talked about the nervous system before. So remember the other parts to it, lots of vitamin B1, so pork, and other things which we discussed previously. And the second part of the question you mentioned, since it is an autoimmune disease. So let me just comment it that way. Western medical system tells us that there is something wrong with our immune system, and that our immune system attacks ourselves itself. So we need to take immunosuppressants. And I've been on that journey. Immunosuppressants do not work. They mask the symptoms. So you have a fake impression that it is working, that it helped you, but actually in the long term, the problem always comes back, and typically it comes back way worse. Clean the gut, seal the gut, heal the gut. So those undigested particles of food, they will stop flowing throughout the leaky gut. This will stop immune system to attach those molecules to these particles, and the chronic inflammation and ultimately will go into remission. Guys, I think I'm just going to do one more question. One more question. Is already 7:45 here in the UK, and as you can hear, probably my voice is going down. So let me just do this last question. Once healed, can you move to GAPS stages? Okay, so if you need to the GAPS, then obviously you would probably need to go through the preparation, let's say adjusted full GAPS before you can start no plant GAPS. Then you do no plant GAPS. Then you do transition from no plant GAPS and introducing vegetables. Then you go through all the stages of intro GAPS, and then you go to full GAPS. Then you transition off GAPS, and then you go to Western A price way of eating. That's in a nutshell, that the journey could look like. There are some people who damaged is so deep that when they try to introduce a speck of plant matter, no matter how long they stay on no plant GAPS, they just cannot tolerate it. So those people can actually follow extended no plant GAPS, which I've explained extensively in that no plant GAPS DIY online training. And I designed that training with Dr. Natasha. I collaborated on many modules with her. Actually, there is a whole module recorded just with Dr. Natasha. So please check it out, because that training is probably worth 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 consultations with me or somebody who understands no plant GAPS. So you're going to save yourself a lot of money, but you know, just make sure that you do it correctly to maximize the therapeutic effects and to do it safely. So I think I'm just going to to say thank you so much. I can see there are lots of comments in the chat. What I will do, we still have a lot of questions to go through. It's been an absolutely pleasure to be with you here and share the knowledge with you. What I will do, I am going to schedule a time to cover the rest of the questions, and I will take the questions from the chat and add it to the next live. I don't know which day yet. Maybe it will be next Thursday as well. I think it's time for me to go and rest from all these EMFs and the laptops. But you should receive an email. If you added your email address on my Facebook group or to the questionnaire form, then you will receive an email with the link to this recording, and I will share the proposed day for the next live. So I hope you enjoyed. I now can see that people enjoyed that as well. I'm pleased it was helpful, and I really want to connect with you more, because I think no plant gaps. The more toxic the world becomes, the more no plant gaps people will need, and we need to educate people that it's a safe and very effective way to go forward. So please spread the word about my work, about Dr. Natasha's work. Invite them to How to Gaps Facebook group, and please connect with me. My email is hello@monicaholland.com, but you will get email from me. So I love you all, guys. Thank you so much for being here. Have a great day, or good night, or good morning, whatever time it is in your country. Take care.